All right, folks, it is Monday. It is time for another live Q&A. And if you are new here, this is where you get to ask all your drone questions and we answer them within the hour. So every week we're going to be here, mostly every week, answering questions. Let me see who we have in the comments. I see a bunch of folks. Oh, Jillian is number one in the community. Our own Jillian from the community. She's number one. We have James Cox. We have Richard Hooker, Just Johnny 2012, Keith Richardson, Curtis Warren. I see a lot of familiar names. Rick's Eye View, Steve A, Reginald, After Us Media, Toddy Wee, Retired Fire Chief, Mountain Man, Just Johnny 2012. Scott is here. We have Drone Eagle, Jack, Daniel, Eric, Timbleweed, Travis Cheney, Jared Yanisek, our own Jared, who teaches our mapping course. Chica is here. And who else? Vic is here saying rainy Denver. Man, it's been raining here as well. Hopefully it doesn't turn into snow. Scott is here. Sparky is here. We have Dallas. And who else? Timbleweed, OK Boomer, Dragonici, Joe Gutierrez, FPV Scenery, Hike and Fly, Glenn Gill, our friend Glenn, David Frame. Bill is here as well, longtime follower, probably one of our longest time follower, Bill. We have Eric Refschneider, Chico, anyways, Philip, Don M, Embrace the Adventure. A lot of folks already here, so what is going on this week? What happened last week? Did we do anything cool last week? Today last week we flew a bunch of drones. We have 2 drones right now that we're going to do a deep dive on. Jason has been flying them like crazy. I didn't even get a chance to fly them. Hopefully I do before we have to send them back. But we flew a mock check ride, which doesn't really help any of our drone friends, but that's going to be a video that we're going to put on the airplane side. I recorded some PPL today, redo of the PPL. We also are going to be eventually redoing the Part 107 that's on our list, which is cool. A lot of the stuff we do for PPL is going to end up in the Part 107. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we are. Tomorrow I'm supposed to be flying out to Utah for the LIDA conference tomorrow night. I'll be there on Wednesday all day and then coming back on Thursday to record news updates. Hopefully the weather cooperates. We're still looking at the weather, so hopefully I don't have to cancel, but that's the negative side about us flying our own airplane to places is that we're a little bit more subject to the bad weather, but it's a 10-hour drive versus a 3-hour flight. So I'll take a 3-hour flight. I don't think I can drive 10 hours to be there for a day and then drive 10 hours back. That would be a little bit much. Okay. Let's get this party started. Put your comments in the live chat. We have Jason filtering through the comments in the back over there. And then we have Ethan and Ben behind the counter right here, cleaning up the feed and making sure everything goes well. Are you waving at your camera? Do you have a camera up there yet? No camera yet. Yeah, they've been Ben and, not Ben, the other B, Bo, and Bo and Ethan have been redoing we had a cart. We had a big camera cart that had all of our equipment in it for ingesting data. They are decomposing that thing and then putting it on a permanent place. The new studio doesn't need to have this thing on wheels. I think they're mostly done. It's starting to look pretty good from there. 60%, yeah. It's a big upgrade. Yeah, it's taller. But yeah, they have a full desk now where they can do everything. Ethan does his magic with a lot of different button controls back here. We have camera feed for 4 different cameras that goes back to the back. But not only that, this is done for 3 different sets. We can have 4 cameras on 3 different sets total to capture the data. So it's really neat. But yeah, we had guests today. We had 6 guests from the Old Farts with Drone group that came to visit. This was actually our first visitors, I think, in town that saw the new building. Spent time with them this morning. It was a great visit. We had lunch and then, yeah, it was good. Minus the cold. It's cold outside and it's rainy and we're comfy inside. All right, enough blah, blah. Let's get to the questions. Toriwi says, is a BVLOS waiver required if you use a VO? Yes, absolutely. a visual observer does not mean you can fly beyond visual line of sight. If you actually read the regulation, we have there's a limit. The way the regulation is written, sorry, I had a brain fart. The way the regulation is written, it's written in a way that if you're using a visual observer, it doesn't mean that you can be, as the pilot, beyond visual line of sight, if that makes sense. Travis says, why is the DJI app not adapting to newer operating systems of phones like Android 15, for example? Ooh, that's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. I am not an Android user, but that sucks. So I'm not sure. Chica says, hello from Phoenix, Arizona, very close to us. Going to take my Part 107 test soon and found this channel to be a wonderful source of knowledge. Glad you have this and glad you found it. So good luck, I guess. What causes the satellite count to fluctuate? Mostly the fact that those satellites are moving very quickly in the sky and that your drone might be catching a satellite and then that satellite eventually disappears on the other side of the flat Earth. And I get it. Waiting for a reaction from the crowd. There's no crowd. Yeah, on the other side of the globe, this satellite is going to disappear. So you're going to lose that. And then probably pick another one. So at all times, there's always quite a few satellites, but depending on the one that you just caught onto, it might eventually disappear. Drone Eagle says, at Jared, this is for Jared, my company just bought a Matrice 350 RTK with L2 sensor. Any chance we can get a LiDAR mapping course? We already have a LiDAR mapping course. So we added it maybe, 6 months ago? Maybe a little longer than that. Go check out the course. It was not there initially when we started the mapping series, but now it is available. So yeah, go check it out. What is the latest update on the DJI ban? Not really any updates that I have heard of. I mean, we keep hearing of states that are trying to ban DJI for public safety agencies, which is not good. But no, other than that, not really anything new that I can think of. Okay. Todiwi says, do you require a waiver to fly over a road, not following the road, just flying from one side to the other? That all depends if there are vehicles on the road or not. So the FAA says that you cannot fly over people in moving vehicles. And so if there are no vehicles and people in them, then you're safe. But if there are vehicles, then you cannot fly over that without a waiver. Any movement on the Utah Senate Mike Lee 200-foot proposal? Not that I have seen or heard. My guess is that not at the moment. My guess is that this thing isn't going to go very far, but we'll see with the craziness in general. We'll see. Mountain Man says, do you know what the US-made SciFly Q12 drone price is going to be? I do not. We have not gotten pricing. I think it might be too early. They are supposed to be releasing this thing in Q4, I think, of this year. So at the end of the year. So I guess we'll find out then. I mean, based on experience, this is a probably at least $10,000 to $15,000 drone. I'm going to advance. I don't have any data on that, but based on what we've seen, it's NDA compliance, made in the United States, probably not a big batch at first. It's going to be expensive for them to manufacture it. So if you're expecting something, in the few $1,000s, I don't think it's going to happen. It's going to be low five digit is my guess.
Based on that figure, we can get 2 of them for the studio.
Based on that, yeah, we can get 2 of them if they send them to us for free. Yeah. For review. Bill says, I'll be doing a real estate shoot of a property with a large acreage. On smaller property, I do the top-down shot to capture the whole property. Do you have any tips on how to handle a large property? Yeah, I would do an ortho mosaic. I would do either, a grand scale ortho that you can put together in Photoshop. I don't know if the correct term would be ortho in this case, or you can just do a 2D map by doing a scan of the property and then have it in 2D for them. I'm guessing that the you probably just want to show the overall thing. Or you can just go, a little bit as high as you can go and then do several pictures and then kind of stitch them together afterwards. But that's kind of the concept of an ortho. So I would do an ortho. Christian says, what's up, PI Pros? Any information if DJI will continue to support the Mavic, Matrice, every time there's an M, Matrice 30T, especially now the Matrice 4 thermal is out. Any word if we're going to see a Matrice 40T? My guess is even if we see, by the way, because they release a new, different model, the 4T is a completely different model than the 30, it doesn't mean that they discontinue the previous one or they discontinue support. As an example, they just discontinued support on the Phantom 4, which is, an old drone. So as far as the 40T, I have not heard any rumors on this, but with that said, these enterprise drones don't get as rumored as the other drones, so we'll see. I have no doubt eventually we're going to see one, but the 30 is fairly new, so I don't know that we'll see one that quickly. Christian also says, do you have any flight time with the Autel Evo Max 4T or the Evo Max 4N? We flew it. I don't have a ton of flight time. We flew it at one of the events. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there is nothing in there that I saw that was not good. So yeah. Somebody in the comment, Thumb Drone says, I heard rumors of the 40T this fall. Maybe. Bill's follow-up question says, the orthomosaic technique taught in the mapping course. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's probably your best bet. I mean, that it's the easiest way to make a large map that's going to look decent, right? 2D map. Yesterday, I flew my Air 2S in adverse conditions, very gusty winds, got a high wind warning from the controller saying that the RTH wouldn't work. I didn't know it would do that. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because the drone is just moving around a little bit too much, but yeah, be careful with the high wind. You can bring it back by hand. I mean, we've flown in pretty heavy wind. Think about the wind. What is the worst thing that happens in a very gusty or very heavy wind, very fast wind? It's the fact that the motors may not be fast enough to bring you back, and therefore the wind is just going to keep pushing you. And when I say worst thing, that's not a good situation, but it's not like it's going to take the aircraft out of the sky, right? It's just going to be pushing the drone, and it's not going to be able to fight to get against the wind. That's the worst that happens. Dodi says, is a BV loss waiver required if you do a handover in the middle to another pilot? No. So that is one of the possible things that you can do if you have the proper equipment, as long as both pilots can see the drone visual line of sight at the same time, then it is okay to hand one over to the other because now you're changing pilots. But that the original pilot would have to see the aircraft within visual line of sight. The second pilot would have to be within visual line of sight, take it over, and then take it to the next thing. So that is absolutely a possibility that is allowed in the regulation under Part 107. FPV Scenery says, thank you for the drone stickers. You are very welcome. Sadly, the person that makes our drone stickers is moving to school outside the country, and so we are going to lose him this week. And so I think we found a replacement, a local college student. Our current student is a high school student, very bright high school student who's going to be going to college overseas, which is really cool. And so yeah, we're sad to lose him, but we're excited for him. What should I know before flying under another company's zero grid waiver for a job? Read the entire document, okay? Read the entire document. Make sure that you are aware of all the stipulation in that waiver before you fly. That would be my recommendation. Don't take it for granted what they're telling you. Read the document from the FAA because you're going to be the one responsible. Bem says, local PD had a crime scene. They wanted to They wanted to drone over it, but was in controlled airspace and didn't. Can't law enforcement get any type of waiver? I mean, controlled airspace doesn't mean you can't fly there. But yes, there are possibilities for law enforcement to get a quick waiver to fly over in certain airspace. Especially in this case, my guess is they didn't need to go very far. So yeah, they can ask for an emergency approval if you want. Steven says, do you know what's going on with the DJI tracking beacon? Also, I'm looking into the DJI Agras T25. Can you give detail on part 137 and top training? I will operate in the Washington, D.C. area freeze. Woo, okay, interesting. So let's go question by question. The DJI tracking beacon, from what we heard, the last update is that it wasn't going to be available on release of the Mavic 4. Now, we don't know if it's because it was a rumor that wasn't really true, or if it's because it's just not available right now. If it's never going to be available, I don't know. That's, yeah, we don't know yet. Agras T25 Part 137 is an approval that you're going to need to get in order to use pesticides with an aircraft. A drone is an aircraft. And so the application has been simplified and modified so that it's a bit more applicable to drones now. So the process is not as daunting as it used to be a year or so ago. But yeah, you're going to have to do that. Top training, absolutely not required. Top is the AUVSI. I don't even want to mention their name. Money grab training, not required to fly drones over 50 pounds. I would actually stay away from Top. It's just going to cost you way too much money for what it is. So, and it's AUVSI as well. So operating in the DC area freeze is going to be, obviously, you're going to need to get approval for that. It's there's information on their website on how to do it. I would start with that because you're going to be flying a large drone inside of the freeze, which is going to be scary for the powers that be. But yeah, I would look into that first. Tony says, back to the road question. Would I need to wait for the road to be clear of traffic before proceeding across? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Scott says, flying over houses is okay, right? Question mark. Just had a cop on me this weekend. Someone called on me. I said that they don't own the airspace. I flashed my US card, just confirming. Yes, you should be able to fly as long as you're not flying over people, as long as you're not filming inside of houses. That's the extent. Some states are trying to pass laws that have restrictions on where you can fly, but I don't know which states have it at the moment. Yeah. I don't know that any states have passed it, actually. Maybe that's not right. I keep seeing proposed laws, and then I keep seeing... I see a lot of proposed laws, but I never really know if they've made it through the books or not. So you just got to be careful with that. Preston says, for TFR to be in place, will they give you any warning before doing so? It depends. Most TFRs are put in place with a warning. So like President's Travel, for example, a VIP, TFR, then they're going to tell you ahead of time, at least probably a day or so. But some of them can pop pretty quickly, like a forest fire where we live, for example, would pop up pretty quickly. There are TFRs that get put in place because an airport had an accident and you can't fly to that airport. So, yeah. Yeah, Vic confirmed no states have passed anything like that yet. Okay, thank you. I wasn't going crazy. I fly under recreational rules, have my drone registered with the FAA. Thanks for the stickers. Is it 2 years when I have to re-register with the FAA? It's $5 for 3 years. And great transition to a topic. The FAA emailed us today with saying that the system is down right now for registration. They cannot take payment. I almost replied and said, well, you should make it free. But yeah, no, it's closed right now. They don't know when it's going to be back in place. So I think they have a banner on the website that explains that. But if you're trying to register your drone right now, it is not going to be possible. How expensive is it to get started in drone mapping? Not necessarily expensive to get started. It can get expensive over time. you can try to tinker without spending too much money, but at one point you're going to need to get good equipment, which is expensive. And I see that Jared has replied as well. Yep, it will cost you over time. Yep, and cost you your time. Yeah, absolutely. Next, Chico says, when flying my Mini 4 Pro recreationally, do I need a remote ID, which the Mini 4 Pro does with the larger battery, or can I fly with smaller battery instead? Okay. And then he says, I'm Part 107 certified operator. Okay, so let's look at two things here. If you want to fly the Mini 4 Pro recreationally with the larger battery, then it needs to be broadcasting remote ID, okay? If you fly with the smaller battery, then it's not going to be broadcasting remote ID, and it's fine if you follow recreational rules. Now, you need to follow all the recreational rules. You need to have trust. You need to pick a CBO and all these things. But with that being said, you are Part 107 certified, so if you ever fly that drone under Part 107, even recreationally. So here's the trick, right? You can fly recreationally under either the recreational rules or under Part 107 rules. If you fly recreationally under Part 107 rules, the drone needs to be registered and therefore needs to have remote ID, regardless of the weight of the drone. I hope this clarifies it. I know it's confusing. Joseph says, what's the best way to fly a construction progression flight in a zero grid, multiple flights every 2 weeks? I would get approval from the FAA. If it's, they might be able to give you recurrent approval to fly in that area. So that's what I would request for. I don't know what else to say, quite frankly. Todi says, any Pilot Institute merch with the small logo? Yeah, we're going to have shirts, not polos, but we're going to have t-shirts that are going to have the smaller logo. We had started to do quite a bit of work on the merch store, and then tariffs came in, which made it pretty much impossible for us to get any merch that are going to be at a reasonable price. So, and I refuse to sell you guys a t-shirt for, $40 or whatever it is. So we're going to wait a little bit, see what happens with the tariffs, and then reconvene. But I want to make sure that this stuff is available to all of you. So we're going to be patient. Let's put it this way. Sandy says, can a pilot handover be done with a DJI drone controller? If so, where can I find information on how to do it? Not a whole lot of DJI drones can do that. Typically, the larger drones, the Matrice series, have the ability to do that, but not your Mavic or your Air or your Mini. So you're going to need to have the actual equipment that allows you to do that. It's pretty rare. Any update on how tariffs are affecting DJI drones purchased from China? It's going to make them probably twice as expensive as they used to be. That's really the bottom line. There's no other way to say it. So tariffs are going to be affecting everyone, not just drones. It's going to be affecting everything. It's already affected us as a business with things that we purchase. And yeah. How will the airplane CFI course work with the multiple different tests? Any update on release date, pricing, etc.? So there's 2 exams that you need to do as a CFI, Certified Flight Instructor for airplane. The Fundamental of Instructing, and then the FIA, which is Flight Instructor Airplane exam. The FIA, we just talked about that in the office not too long ago. The FIA is very much the same as our commercial course. The database is not really any different. The knowledge is not that much different. So we're struggling right now to create a course that is going to be mostly the same and, charge somebody else to get access to the same course. So we're trying to think about how we can add value to a new course. And I think we found a way. So that's going to be one thing. And then the Fundamental of Instructing, the script is done. I need to go over it and review all the scripts. And I've been reviewing scripts for Private Pilot for a while now. So I'm going to try to do it concurrently and review that that FOI script and start recording it. But it's a big undertaking because I think we did a good job with the script. It's a lot of stories and examples, but it's also a lot of theory, and it's pretty difficult. So yeah, I'm working on that. It's going to take me a while. I don't know how long. Unfortunately, I have to review all these scripts because I have to get on camera and read them. And so, yeah, it's difficult. I wish I had more hours in the day. I wish I could read at like 5x the speed. Maybe I should take a class on how to read real fast. I'm not there yet. Okay. Stephen Belt says, I read that top training level 2 is needed to get a waiver to operate in a Washington, D.C. freeze, an outlying area that is critical to my real estate. What else can I do? Vic maybe can talk more about this, but I'd like to see where you read that, because I don't think that is the case. And there's no such thing as an approved course by anything. If anything, that course would be on FAA safety and it would be free. I don't think that's correct. I would like to see where that information comes from, but I have never heard of that. Neither do I think it makes sense. Todi says, do you see parachute becoming a requirement for larger delivery drones? No. No, sorry, I just had to think about it for a second. Not necessarily, because of larger delivery drones that are used under Part 135 typically get a type certificate approval from the FAA, and typically, yeah, sorry, I just read another comment, and then so yeah, large delivery drones are operated under Part 135, not Part 107. And Part 135 requires a type certification, which means that the FAA has to review that aircraft in detail, and then it has to have like a maintenance schedule, and it has to have a whole lot more than you would have with your DJI drone, for example. And this is why they're allowed to operate beyond visual line of sight over people, blah, blah, blah. So typically, a parachute is not necessarily required, but they have other features that are going to be used in case of an emergency. So I hope this makes sense. But I don't think a parachute alone is always the right solution, especially when you have aircraft that are, more like a fixed wing design where it doesn't necessarily fall out of the sky. If you lose the motors, it can actually glide. So in this case, you have a different way of dealing with emergencies. Just like parachutes are not required in airplanes, for example, because they can glide. They probably should be required in helicopters because they can glide. Or I don't believe that's considered gliding. I know. Anyways, yeah. Who is the best CBO? There's only 4 of them right now. I recommend, depending on what you do, I recommend either the FPV Freedom Coalition or Flight Test Community Association, FTCA. They're both really good, and they both kind of make sense. And I would support these organizations because they do a lot for the industry. Can you start making hats? We have hats. We have them in our store right now. If you go to merch.pilotinstitute.com. But the company that is fulfilling our merch store at the moment are slow. The quality is decent, I think, but they're slow and kind of annoying to deal with, which is why we want to bring it back in-house. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. I knew Tom was going to respond to my helicopter. He says, yes, they can. They can't. A quick rotation to the ground is not gliding. Vic says, nope, confirms top is not required. We flew there without any top garbage. Yep. I hope that you're not getting lied to. I'm trying to see who asked that question. Stephen. I hope you're not getting lied to, Stephen. If you see a place where it shows that requirement, please send it over to me, because I think that could be false advertising or some organization pushing for something that. Yep. Okay. Next, we have AFWAZ can the controlled area size suddenly change? Controlled area. I was previously on the edge of KFLG, that's Flagstaff, close to us, and now it extends to about another 1.5 miles. Yeah, so that's the edge of the Class Delta airspace that you're talking about. And what happens is that Flagstaff in particular, they reshaped the airspace. They reshaped the way the airspace looks. And I know this because, well, first off, it's close to us here, but I used to have Flagstaff in my slides because the shape of the Class Delta was kind of odd. It wasn't like just a regular circle like you see most everywhere. And then I went back to get new screenshots and it's no longer like that. So yeah, it has changed. But yeah, it happens. I don't think it's super common necessarily, but yeah, some airspace change requirements. Some airspace also go from Class Delta, for example, to Class Charlie because they get so busy. There's been talk about our airport becoming a Class Charlie, which is really interesting. So yeah. Is it a federal offense to bother someone while they are flying a drone? And is that only for pilots of manned aircraft? A Ken Heron video suggests that it was the latter, but I thought it was the former. I mean, we wish that it was really for everyone, but it appears that the FAA is taking a stance that it is only for manned aircraft pilots, which is dumb. But yep. What kind of other job I can do when I get... Okay, hold on. What kind of other jobs I can do with... Can do when? Okay. We were just talking about deciphering some of the questions sometimes. And I'm very literal. I just read every word and then and I'm not smart enough to see when it's a typo. Okay, what kind of other job can I do when I get a DJI Mavic 4 or 3 besides cinematography and aerial photography? I mean, that's what the drone really is designed for, right? I mean, you could do inspections. You could do inspections of like roof inspection, for example, although thermal is probably a bit of a requirement for that. But yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know what else to say about this question, but I mean, drones are very can be used for a lot of different things for sure. So I don't think that's the only thing that you can do with it, but that's what that drone was really designed for. Okay, Boomer says acronyms below. What is TOP? I don't remember what it stands for. It's AUVSI certification that they try to create. And then decided to charge an arm and a leg to do it. Top Trusted Operator Program. There you go. But I think the idea on paper was good, but just like a lot of what AUVSI does ends up being just a money grab. So it was, I personally don't think it was successful. I don't think, yep. Okay. What else do we have? Solar and wind is hot right now. I mean, yeah, we're approaching summer, so you need to do a sound over there. Okay, well, if you have other questions, I think I finally got to the end of it. I'm going to let them line up again and continue talking in the meantime. Can I redo my joke? What was my joke? Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me read it again. Okay, solar and wind is hot right now. Yeah, I guess it's summer's coming up. That's why. Oh, we have the Seinfeld laugh track. Yeah, I like it. Studio audience. Sparky said, did I hear someone say AUVSI? Never. Nope, not on this channel. Okay. Let me see. Orangeuzy says... Orange juice or orange juice? Sorry. That's, yeah. Do you usually wear a body cam while you fly out in the field? Why and why not? I mean, I don't, because usually I have a bunch of camera operators with me and the whole crew, so people don't usually come and bother us. But I absolutely would wear a body cam if I were doing this every day in the field. It's a good backup for you, and you know, it's good proof of anything that happens. There's a reason police departments wear body cams, you know. And yeah, absolutely would. Is there a reason why my DJI Mini 4 Pro having problems coming back home and landing? It just hovers on top of the home marker. So from experience, what I have seen when that happens is because the landing spot is not super flat, not really the best place for the drone to land. It kind of analyzes the ground before it lands. So I would say if you have a landing pad, probably a good idea to put underneath there, so it makes a nice surface for the drone to come down to. So yeah, that's what I would look into. Okay, next. Can a delivery drone ever be flown under Part 107? The answer is yes, as long as the drone is flown within visual line of sight. So the FAA clearly says in the regulation that a drone flown for carrying property for commercial purposes beyond visual line of sight is not in the purview of Part 107. That's because it's under the purview of Part 135. But if you fly within visual line of sight under Part 107, it's okay to do drone delivery. The thing is, kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because you're going to have maybe a mile top of visual, if that, depending on where you live, if you're on the elevated spots. But otherwise, you won't. So, yeah. I guess I was just confused on the question earlier. Does the Mini 4 Pro not have remote ID? Oh, yeah, that's a great question, TIE Fighter. What happened is that the DJI, somewhat rightfully so, I can understand what they're doing. The Mini 4 Pro, in their eyes, is a recreational drone, right? It's never really been, even though it has the Pro moniker, it's a recreational drone. As such, they made it so that it would be designed in such a way that if it's flown with the small battery, aka the drone is sub 250 grams, it does not broadcast remote ID, because a drone is not required to broadcast remote ID if it's flown recreationally and it's under 250 grams. So if you decide to fly that drone with the small battery as a Part 107 operator, it means that you need to have remote ID, because that's what the regulation says, right? When you hit Part 107, then every drone that you fly needs to have remote ID. And so in that case, you would need to add a module on top of it to make it compliant. Sounds counterintuitive, but if you fly it with a big battery, it always broadcasts remote ID. So Christian, thanks for the addition. He says delivery drone in Part 107 still must be under Part 50, under 55 pounds. Correct, because Part 107 stops at 55 pounds. So, but yes, thank you for mentioning that. Oakley and Harley say, I am taking your course for Part 107 now with my brother-in-law. Will he also be able to get an extra shirt, or does he have to buy another class? Also, anyway, the FAA, anyway to change the FAA exam to just cover drones. Okay. Let's go question by question. So technically, we ask for one course per customer. The reason is because we keep track of progress and everything, and we guarantee that you pass the exam. So we ask for people not to share the thing. So obviously, you would need one each in order to get the shirt if you get over 90. As far as the FAA exam only covering drones, no. And here's why. Because, and when you say drone, I'm guessing you're saying multi-rotors, right? The FAA, when they give you your certificate, it's a small unmanned aircraft certificate, which means that a small unmanned aircraft is it's a fixed wing, or it's a multi-rotor, or it's a eVTOL aircraft that does both fixed wing and vertical takeoff and landing. So when they test you, they're not giving you a multi-rotor pilot certificate. They're giving you a unmanned aircraft pilot certificate. As such, they have to test your knowledge on everything, including fixed-wing aircraft, which I understand most people are not going to be flying, but you have to understand that at one point in your career, you might end up flying a fixed-wing aircraft, and you have the certificate to do so. As such, you're going to get tested on that. But yeah. Steven says, on Friday, I asked about videos on YouTube. You answered quickly. If I fly recreational and YouTube puts ad on it, they could possibly make money on my channel. That's fine. That's outside of your control. So it doesn't change anything for you. It's you're not collecting any of that money, and you're not monetizing your channel. So YouTube is monetizing your channel. So you're good. 352 guys. 352 guys. 35 guys. Greg, remind me the process of recert every 2 years. You have to take the Part 107 again, question mark. How difficult is the recert process? I took your course and passed the first time, and it was definitely a challenge. The good news is the renewal is very simple. You go on fasafety.gov, and then you look for a course called ALC 677. And that course is going to take you through the renewal process. It takes, if you do it correctly, probably about an hour. And then at the end of it, there's going to be an exam. You're going to take the exam. You can't really miss it. You can't fail the exam. And then once you get the right score, then they'll give you that certificate. That means that you are now current for another 24 calendar months. Keep that in your records, available somewhere that you can show the FAA, and you'll be good to go. I just did mine like a couple of weekends ago to get current again. Cascade Drone Services. Have you folks tried any of the third-party 3D printed prop design for drones? Okay, I'm going to say something that is sometimes controversial, but I refuse to buy props that are not OEM props. Just buy props from the manufacturer is my recommendation, and you won't have any surprises. You know, DJI spends a lot of time and money on R&D, research and development, and they come up with this equipment for a reason, because it's, the best. The thing is that happens if you crash your drone with one of these on, the warranty may not work. So I would not recommend it. Can I get approval to fly into Class E2 with a temporary 107 certificate? Yeah, the temporary certificate is as good as the final certificate. It's just that you don't have it. So you have the same privileges, you have the same everything. You just, when they ask you for your certificate number, you're just going to write pending instead of writing the actual number that was assigned to you. If an airplane flies under a drone, what can I do? I mean, there's not much you can do. It's obviously avoided the aircraft, but you have to question yourself and see why that airplane was there in the first place. It likely means that you are very close to an airport and you don't know that you are close to an airport. So I would land immediately. I would pull out an app to find out. I would pull out a loft air control to find out where you are. And if you needed to have approval, you are probably in a zero grid, would be my guess. Close to an airport. And I would, I would definitely try to find out what's going on. When purchasing a Chinese drone, is there a way to find out what the tariff charge is? As far as I've checked, the tariff charge right now is 100% on Chinese drones. So be ready to pay the same exact amount that you just paid on that website. So next. David says, my Mini 4 Pro was originally registered as recreational, and now is also under Part 107. I have PI labels for both registrations. Should I cancel registration recreational? So here's what you do. Put the registration label for Part 107 on that drone. You don't need to put the recreational one. And then that registration is valid also for recreational. So here's one thing that always is confusing to folks. Is the fact, and that's partly because the FAA, I think, made this more complicated than they should have on the FAA drone zone, but I also don't think they had a different way, another option to do it. But anyway, let me explain. When a drone is registered, it's registered. There's no real such thing as a Part 107 registration or a USC 44809 registration, a recreational registration. A registration is a Part 48 registration, regardless of how you get there. Notice when you actually pull the the card, your registration card, it doesn't really mention one or the other. The only difference is the fact that every drone operated under Part 107 needs to have an individual registration, and every drone operated recreationally can use the same registration. And that's why you see two different branches on the FA Drone Zone website, but it's a registration. Notice how I said it needs to be registered. It needs to have a registration or separate registration, but that's really the only thing. So it's all a registration. So for example, let's say that you buy a drone tomorrow, Mavic 4, right? It come out, you buy it, you fly it recreationally, and you register that drone one time, and that's the only drone that you have, and you put it under the recreational side of the drone zone. That registration right there is also valid if you fly that drone under Part 107. You actually don't need to re-register that drone under Part 107. The only time that you're going to have to do that is if you get an additional drone that you fly recreationally, because now you have two drones, and that drone, the first one that you had, that you are now flying under Part 107, it has to have its own registration number. It cannot be the same as the other drone that you have. So in that case, you would have to start a registration. I hope this makes sense, but a registration is a registration. That's it, really. And then, yeah. So think of that. Tavin says, how will BGI and AGI work for CFI course? So that's the basic ground instructor and advanced ground instructor. And will those FOI be all in one course for CFI or separate? My guess is we're going to sell them separately. Pricing is going to be close to what we have right now, $150 to $200. And yeah, so you could buy the FOI, and then we'll have a bundle, I'm sure, with both of them. That's the idea. So FIA and FOI, if you only need the FOI, you'll be able to buy that as an individual course as well. Also, Taryn says, any update on the DA42 course? Sorry, last airplane question. You can ask airplane questions. We don't have a Q&A for airplanes, so you're welcome to ask the questions here. DA42 course is in the editing phase right now. It's with the 3D animators, right? And Ethan has been working on doing the call-outs. So I don't know that I have an update. It's probably going to take us at least a month because the 3D animators are busy also with the airplane, the private pilot redo. So they're going to mix and match their stuff, but yeah. So it's going to be a little while. First couple of weeks of June, yes, that sounds about right. Does the FCC send you a new card when you recert? FCC, so the FCC doesn't, it's the FA. The FCC doesn't really get involved with what we do on the registration or certification level. No, you will not get a new certificate card in the mail from the FA once you do your renewal of currency, because that's all it is. It's a renewal of currency. It's not a new certification. So your card stays the same. Just like my airplane pilot card, I've had it since I did my commercial airplane multi-engine way back in the days, and it's still the same card. That doesn't change unless I lose it and then I request a new one. But every time you get a new rating on that card or a new license or something else added to that card, which might be the case for Part 108, we'll see, then you would get a new card because you get something added to the card, but there's no expiration date on that card, actually, if you look closely. I just passed my FA exam today. Whoop, awesome, Chris. And I get an 87. Thanks for teaching. It was intense. Yeah, that's cool. That's exciting. That's exciting. You've probably answered this, but I have hundreds of drones. Holy crap. I also have heavy RC planes, not foam. I use the same ID module for all my drones. Is it okay to use the same module on all my planes? Yes, it is, as long as you are flying recreationally, which I'm guessing you are. If you fly recreationally, just add that module to your inventory on the FA Drone Zone, and then you can use that module anywhere you want. Not the case for Part 107. Indy says, I am dyslexic and in high school, college, I had untimed tests. Can the FAA do something similar? Nope. The FAA will not change the time on the test. They might be able to, they will sometimes give you a person that can read the questions for you, and that's it. But, yep. Glenn says, Greg needs a rotary wing endorsement. That is a nope. Heather says, what software do you recommend for ground surveying with the Mini 4 Pro? Looking to start getting paid jobs. I'm not happy with the built-in DJI waypoint settings. Maybe we can have Jared answer that question. Not my area of expertise. I know enough to be dangerous, but not something that I do on a regular basis. So we did a YouTube video. That's right. We did a YouTube video with the Mini 4 on our channel. So I would recommend you actually go and check that out on the YouTube, the drone page, to take a look. But maybe Jared can come back and tell us more here. FPV says, do I need to get a permit from New York Police Department in New York City for filming with a drone if I am inside a private property under a roof? Nope, you don't. So the drone is inside an enclosed space with permission from property owner. No, flying indoors doesn't require anything from either the FAA or from the city. So you are good in this case. Yep, you're right, Vic. Helicopters are a nope for me. I call them helinopters. That's a nope. Tarda says, let me see. The airport is 21 miles away. I was at 393 feet. I got an alert, manned aircraft flying with caution. And before I could find the airplane, it appeared behind the trees due to the angle of 300 feet. Ooh, that is not good. So more than likely, that's an illegal flight if it was an airplane. Airplanes cannot fly that low. And especially not near people. So that's an FAA violation on the pilot. And if you have footage or if you have a tail number or anything, I would report it to the FSDO because that sounds like something that is extremely illegal. Does my registered drone show up on the radar at local airport control tower? No, it does not. Do they let pilots know when there's a drone flying nearby? Neither of that. So let me explain how this actually kind of works, right? How the whole system is kind of designed to work. You will not show on the radar. It's too small to show on the radar. Unless they have some kind of equipment that is drone specific, that is a drone radar that is designed to catch that drone in action, which some airports have, okay? But most airports don't. So why is it that the controllers don't need to see those drones? It's because the UAS facility map, right? The grid that you see on the Lance chart. These were approved by the control towers as being airspace where there's very unlikely to be any kind of aircraft flying. All right. So when the controllers deal with their airspace, they know that in that area, there's not going to be an aircraft flying under 400 feet. So they give you 400 feet and up. Some helicopters might be flying in that area, so you still need to be cautious. But in most cases, it means no. As you get closer to the airport, you notice how these numbers start to drop. The maximum altitude at which you can fly starts to drop. And that's because now there's more of a chance of an aircraft being in that area. Hence why we have zero grid areas where there's going to be an aircraft there because you're close to the airport and there's going to be an airport on final and we don't want to see any drones in that area. So that's how it works. That's why controllers don't need to know about drone activity because they've kind of already defined these areas as being safe. And if somebody flies a drone there, then the chance of them encountering a manned aircraft is very low. Doesn't mean, again, that you should not be looking for manned aircraft because they could still be in there, especially helicopters. But yeah, so yeah, that's how it works. So usually, control towers don't need to know. The time that they know is when you request to fly above the grid. And you'll notice that if you sometimes request to fly in a zero grid and you get 100-foot approval, that needs to go to the tower first so they can review the approval and say, yes, we are okay with this. And then in some cases, most cases maybe, there is some language in that approval that says you have to call the tower beforehand to tell them that you're going to be there. And then and to call them when you're done. So that way the controller knows. So if somebody else is if a manned aircraft is flying in that area, then the controller can say, hey, by the way, there is possible activity, unmanned aircraft activity in that area. Be aware. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. That's how the whole process works. Scott says, any update on Part 108? No, not really at the moment. I mean, we expect it to be out this year, but who the heck knows when it's going to be. Chris says, I've seen a number of people posting really cool shots of my city. Do you have any tips on flying in a city without flying over people or cars, or is it possible? A lot of planning so that you can be, have visual observers that can tell you if you're going to be flying in the wrong spot. A lot of going on site to see if you can find the right place to fly beforehand. A lot of recon if you want to get there. I know a lot of people don't do that, so inevitably people are going to be flying over people in moving vehicles, which I don't think is good. Next, when you have to do the recertification, don't call it recertification, currency renewal. Okay, currency renewal for Part 107, do you have to repay the $175? No, you don't. That test on the FAA website is free. It used to be that you had to pay, but not anymore. Is a DJI Neo with remote ID considered a Category 1? And can I fly it to transition over a freeway? Yeah. I don't see why not. DJI Neo, I'm trying to think. DJI Neo with remote ID, Category 1. Yeah, if it's under 250 grams, it has prop guards, then it's a Category 1. Absolutely. To follow up on my previous question, going further, how will I tell if a DJI drone has remote ID capability? You can go on the FAA website, and there you'll be able to, I think Jason is going to put a link in the description. There's a link called the DOC, Declaration of Compliance website from the FAA. You can type the model of your aircraft. So let's say a Mavic 6, you put it in there and it's going to tell you if it's remote ID compliant, and it's going to show you the serial numbers that are compliant. So yeah. USA Drone Flyer says, Saturday there was a small aircraft about 100 foot flying erratically over boats at the mouth of the something river. Like Pontchartrain. Okay, that's not good. That's in, I know where that is. And I had to bring down my drone. I have the footage and tail number. Definitely reported to the FAA if they were flying over aircraft at 100 feet. That is 100% illegal. Unless it was a float plane and it was trying to land, in which case that's different. So there's that. Travis says, Greg answered, but I didn't mention one of my plane is 7 foot long by 6 foot wide. That is cool. 31cc motor, recreational, still okay. It weighs about 18 pounds. Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. There's actually, people think that there is a limit as to how heavy recreational planes can be. There is no limitation. In 44809, 49 USC 44809, there is no limit on weight, just like there is on Part 107. Cosmo family, is that the Cosmo Kramer? The Cosmos family says, is drone delivery a tough business to start? Yes, it is a tough business to start. When you think about how unsuccessful Amazon has been at delivering things with drones, it should tell you how tough of a business this is. Going to take a lot of money to get this thing rolling, to get Part 135 approval, to get a type certified aircraft. Personally, not something I would even think about getting into. Unless you're doing drone delivery within visual line of sight. Do you have any information on setting up a drone operation station for monitoring multiple drone ops? Let me think about this. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think DroneSense or I'm just trying to think what you're trying to accomplish actually. Is it your own drones? Are you trying to get remote ID signal, in which case you would get a remote ID receiver? There's a lot of possibly an offline discussion, Maddie. Steve says, if you are flying outside of controlled airspace, like out in the country area, do you need to get notified lands? Okay. No, if you're flying outside of controlled airspace, LANs does not apply. Okay, let's say that I am filming commercially for a company, but the drone is an enclosed place inside of a venue, potentially flying over people inside a venue. Is it still required to get... Nope. Nope. If you're flying inside, there's no... You're not in the airspace. There's nothing that... you're not using the navigable airspace. So the New York Police Department permit does not apply. The FAA regulation doesn't apply. The only thing that applies in this case would be a insurance if the person that you're flying for requires insurance, and that insurance provider is going to need to know what you're going to be doing, aka flying over people and all that, because they don't usually like it. Briefly cover, and we're getting close. Briefly cover the FAA issue on the drone zone. I've done that already, so whew. Not required to get a permit. No, you don't need the New York Police Department permit. That's only if you fly in the airspace. That is not if you fly inside of a building. They don't control what you do inside of the building. There's no... Nope. Okay, well, it is 5 o'clock, actually past 5 o'clock. Thank you for watching. We will be back next week. We are also going to be here on Friday morning for news update. And as always... And that's it, really. Don't be that guy in the meantime, so I don't talk about you in news update. Although we haven't had a news update, knock on wood, in a while. So let's keep the don't be that guy segment to only like once every couple months, if possible. All right, that's it. Be safe, and we will see you next time.